Welcome, fourth graders. This is Mrs. Nelson. In this video, your job will be to identify attributes in a polygon. Remember, a polygon has many sides, usually more than 3. So I have an irregular polygon here. Irregular means not regular. So this one has odd-looking sides. They're not necessarily the same on both sides. So the attributes, meaning what does something look like? Tall, short, long, dark, heavy. What does those attributes look like? So if you're looking at a polygon, there are some attributes you have to identify. These attributes are parallel lines, acute angles, obtuse angles, perpendicular lines, intersecting lines, and right angles. Now, when you identify these attributes, you need to be aware these attributes may not always be present. So a particular shape might not have parallel lines. It might not have perpendicular angles. It might not have any right angles. If it doesn't have perpendicular, it won't have right. So you have to identify what attributes does this geometric shape, this polygon, have. And once you've identified those, you can mark yes or no on them. So let's take a look at our polygon here. Our polygon has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6-sided polygon. Now, we have to look at it and we have to ask ourselves, does this polygon have parallel lines? So, you can pause the video while you try to find them. Okay, so parallel lines, let's look. Yes, it actually has a couple of parallel lines perhaps. So I am going to say right now that these two lines right here, these are parallel. If I take them and make them longer, at this point they are not going to cross each other. So I can mark here that yes, they have parallel lines. Okay, so now let's look at the acute angles. Does this polygon have any kind of acute angles? Remember, acute means the two lines meet and they meet at an angle less than 90 degrees. So yes, these two lines and these two lines meet at less than 90-degree angles. So one of them looks really close to 90, but without a protractor, I wouldn't be able to tell how close. But I can see they look tight, sharp. In fact, those corners are really sharp. So I am going to say here, yes, this has acute angles. Now, let's look and see, does this polygon have obtuse angles? Perhaps. So looking at these obtuse angles, I need to have angles that are going to be wider than 90 degrees. So, looking at this, yes, I can see that it has at least one or more. So the angles that meet right here at this intersection, right here at this intersection, right here at these two lines here, and right here, those are all obtuse. So those two lines meet and they are wider. This is acute, this is obtuse. They are wider than the 90 degrees. So yes, this would be definitely have some obtuse anglage going on, some angles. Alright, so now it's going to ask us, does this shape have perpendicular lines? Perpendicular lines means lines that meet at 90 degrees. So we have identified that it has acute angles. We've identified it does have obtuse angles. But nowhere in here do I see a very striking, obvious right angle. No perpendicular lines. So I'm going to have to say no perpendicular lines. None. Okay? So intersecting lines. Intersecting lines means lines that make X's. So if I look at some of these acute lines and I was to make them longer, and I could make them a little bit longer if I stretch them out here. If you notice that if I made them X's, that I'm thinking that that's going to be intersecting lines right here. If I make this one a little bit longer and this one a little bit longer, I have V's. I have definite acute, acute, obtuse, obtuse. So with that, it has intersecting lines. Yes, intersecting lines. I guess I'm not really seeing any necessarily right angles. You could say perhaps that's a right angle, but I'm not going to go with it because it looks like it's maybe smaller than a right angle. But without a protractor, I won't be able to tell. Most six-sided polygons do not have right angles, so this would be a no. Okay? Because this one's irregular, possibly. Let's take a look at a different shape here, okay, and see what we come up with. So again, I have a six-sided polygon. Now this one looks a little more regular, but it's still, all the sides are not quite the same. So it's not quite regular. So let's take a look at it. If it has parallel lines, let's identify, yes, it has parallel lines. These two lines right here, those are parallel, okay? If we look at these two lines right here, they are parallel. If we look at these two lines running this way, they're parallel. They're not the same length, but they run side by side. If I look at these two sides, they're parallel. They run side by side. So this guy, yes, it has parallel lines. Acute angles. Now, acute angles means they are going to be smaller than 90 degrees. So if I have these two pens, they have to be smaller than 90 degrees. I don't see anything that shows me they have acute angles. Nope, no acute angles. Obtuse angles means they're bigger, they're wider than 90 degrees. So this is your computer screen right here. If it's sitting straight up, that's a 90-degree angle. If it's tipped back, that's obtuse. If you kind of have it closed, that's acute. So this has no obtuse angles, none. So no obtuse angles. Perpendicular lines means lines that meet at 90 degrees. Perfect corners. So if you look at this picture, if I move it and I slide it over here, does it fit in that corner? Does it fit in this one? Does it fit over here? It does. It has lines that meet at perfect right angles, perfect corners. Yes. Does it have intersecting lines? No, because if it has perpendicular lines, this one has all perpendicular lines. This line, these are perpendicular, these are perpendicular, these are perpendicular, 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 perpendicular. All of them are perpendicular. This has no intersecting lines. None. And it's made up of all right angles. If it's all perpendicular, it's all right angles. So yes. So this one is, yes, parallel lines, no acute angles, no obtuse angles, yes, perpendicular lines, no intersecting lines, and yes, right angles. All right, so your job is to identify and click on the attributes that you notice in the shapes, on the polygons in the activity below. Questions? Please let a teacher know. See you soon.